it. And once you practice it, you are wanted among honor killing within your tribe, within your community, and you're just stuck there. And all of this is violence against women that is not being acknowledged by the world. Nobody is doing anything for the women of Iraq.
How about these issues in the Iraqi refugee community in places like Syria?
In Syria, we hear that some women, it reached to the point where they are begging strangers passing by to exploit them sexually so they can feed their children. You know, women of Iraq were not in this situation, I would say, 6 years ago. We did not have to do this. We did not have to go through humiliation, through prostitution. We did not have to beg in the embassies to be accepted in the Western world when the attack on our lives came from the West.
I wanted to bring in another voice into this conversation, another international women's rights activist who's been involved in V-Day organizing and women's rights. She's Malalai Joya, a member of the Parliament of Afghanistan. This is an excerpt from an interview that also appears at the vday.org website.
Freedom, democracy, women's rights, human rights is not something that someone or some country donates us. We experienced in our life that today, this is 6 years that after domination of Taliban, why there is no fundamental change in the situation of our people, even getting worse and worse. I believe countries like a bird, one wing will be injured, how the bird can fly? It's impossible. In a country, it's the same. When half of population is women, will not have education, will be lots of violence against them, even do not have human life, how our country will improve if they do not play their role? For example, right now we are talking about democracy, women's rights, human rights, but I think these pictures are enough that what's going on women in Afghanistan. In 6 months, 54 women alone in Herat province, they burned themselves. The journalists around the world, they are coming, they are taking photos. And we need their support. In 1 year in Herat province, more than 100 women burned themselves in different age because of violences. Now, women of Afghanistan, they have 2 big violences they are facing now. In one hand is Northern Alliance. It is a non-democratic government, fundamentalist government. They are anti-women, first of all, against women, and do not respect women even as a human. This is one reason that women, they do burning themselves, to even some educated women, that when they are looking that they don't have liberation, they have nothing. When they are going outside, they are kidnapping them, they are raping them. They don't have even human life. That's why. In another hand, male domination society also, it impacts some, because if, for example, that's why I'm telling you education is very important, for that when men and women will have education, they know the values of education and they know the values of women's rights. They respect their girls, their daughters as a human.
Malalai Joya is a parliamentarian in Afghanistan speaking out about the situation of women. Yanar Mohammed, are you afraid to speak out in Iraq?
I'm not afraid, but that doesn't mean that I'm protected. I have received a couple of threats in the first year, and in this year I received an indirect threat from those who consider themselves opposition now, while the government has censored me from all the Iraqi televisions. So this is the situation.
What do you mean, censored you?
I'm not allowed to appear on any television which is affiliated with the government. It is not a written rule, but I was not allowed. Like many programs were taken for me, but they were not aired later on. So we work under conditions where it's a survival issue for us. We have to stay there, we have to speak out, but it's the most inhumane situation which we're working in.
Ines Pereira, what about speaking out in Kenya and the political situation right now with the presidential contest going on, the terrible violence that has taken place?
The situation in Kenya is one of the worst for women now, because for a long time women in Kenya have not experienced staying in the camps, in the what we call internally displaced places, which is a worst place where a woman can go, because these are small tents and all sort of violence go on there, because there are these youth who are drunk. Some of them are rape these women. And at the end of the day, you find that it's only a woman who suffers because she goes there with her children. And I do remember hosting 2 girls who ran to the safe house because they were chased away from school because of school fees. And when they tried to go to their families, they found that all their houses were burned and their parents had nothing. So they came to the safe house where we paid their school fees and they are now in school. So life there is horrible because people are going without food and have no shelter.
And the situation now, how has it been affected by this contest between the president who has remained in power and his challenger, Raila Odinga? 1,500 people now dead. What is the number for displaced? Some 500,000 people displaced.
We have that 500,000 people displaced, and they are living in the internally displaced camps. And these 2 people, Raila Odinga and the president, are yet to agree on the sharing of the power, which last week they seemed not to have agreed, because each of them has his own interest and has some people to give jobs. So they are not considering the people in the camps, and they are not even caring about Kenya. They are just caring about the positions and sharing positions with their own members.
Among others, Wangari Maathai, the Nobel Peace Prize winner, was recently tear-gassed.
Yeah. She was tear-gassed because she was trying to say, well, Kenya cannot accommodate more than 24 ministers. Because each of them, they agreed to have a big number because they wanted to reward their fellow members, not considering the budget and the burden that they were going to put on the taxpayers. So Wangari was trying to push them to have a smaller number of cabinet ministers that can be accommodated in the budget.
In the last 30 seconds, Mohammed, can you return now to Iraq?
I will return. I'm just waiting for the battles to be quiet a little. I guess in a few weeks I will be there. And one last thing I would like to say, that our cities now, our neighborhoods, are a battlefield between groups that were created by this occupation. And this is really something that should not happen to Iraqis. And none of it was mentioned in the hearings that I saw over CNN between the heads of the American government. It's really sad.
Talking about the hearing with General Petraeus.
Yes,
and
yes.
Ambassador Crocker.
And all these figures they show about what happens to the surge in Iraq. How come nothing was mentioned about Iraqi casualties? That in our neighborhoods, women and children and young people are going victims to this failure of surge in Iraq?
We're going to have to leave it there. Yana Mohammed and Agnes Pareo, I want to thank you both from Kenya, from Iraq, joining thousands of women from around the world who have gathered in the city, in New Orleans. They're at the Superdome today and tomorrow. We then will head out and we'll be at the Green Fest in Seattle on Sunday, broadcasting from Seattle on Monday. We'll be in Portland, Oregon, in San Francisco, in Oakland. We'll be traveling to Houston and Santa Fe and Albuquerque. Democracy Now! Is on the road, our 12th anniversary. I want to thank the local staff here at WLAE, Ana Maria Betch and Dominique Ochoa and Richard King. I want to thank our staff as well. Jeffrey Hagerman, Nicole Salazar, Silky Shah, Dennis Moynihan. Special thanks to Karen Spruck. I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks so much for joining us.